After we got back together, I changed all the bad habits Diana hated. No more constant check-ins, baseless jealousy, or petty arguments. I even found a cufflink in the passenger seat that wasn't mine, and I just carefully put it away for her. But Diana's face darkened, and she slammed on the brakes. Diana had delicate features and a beautiful face, but she carried the intimidating air of someone in charge. Right now, though, she was pinching the bridge of her nose, looking exhausted. That cufflink belongs to Felix. The dinner meeting last night ran late. He had too much to drink, so I had my driver take him home. She looked at me and offered an explanation, something she usually disdained. I've told you so many times. I only look out for him because he's the son of a close family friend. There has never been, is not, and never will be anything between us. Seeing my silence, a rare crack appeared in her usually composed expression. It revealed a helplessness I'd never seen on her face before. What do I have to do to make you trust me? Nothing, I said calmly. I believe you. I'm not mad. Like punching a pillow, her expression went blank for a rare second. Then why have you been silent this whole ride? I glanced at my watch, mentally calculating the time to the airport, and dodged the question. Didn't you say you hate pointless chatter? I'm running late for work. Why don't you just drop me at this corner? I was focused on the traffic and completely missed the ugly look that flashed across Diana's face. You always get out at the next traffic light. We're still over a mile from the office. I hadn't thought of that and was forced to meet her scrutinizing gaze. It's early. If you're not going to the office, where are you going? Just as the suspicion in her eyes deepened, ring. It was the special ringtone she had set for Felix. Diana's sharp gaze softened. Her eyes shifted away, a dead giveaway. It's a work call. I need to take it. She immediately forgot her suspicions about me and unlocked the doors. You can get out here then. I nodded and quickly unbuckled my seatbelt, but she stopped me. Don't be so clumsy. Watch where you're going. Her voice behind me softened with a hint of coaxing. I made a reservation at that restaurant you've been wanting to check out. I promised you before. I will never miss another anniversary. Happy 7th anniversary. Leo, I'll see you tonight. My hand froze on the door handle. On our last anniversary, she ditched me for Felix. It hurt so much back then, but thinking about it now, I felt nothing. You should get that call, I murmured, my voice soft. Don't keep them waiting. After all, Felix couldn't be kept waiting, and neither could my plane. As for our anniversary, this year, next year, and every year after, I'd be missing it. I finally made it onto the plane. After I sat down, I felt a little dizzy since I hadn't had time for breakfast. I reflexively reached into my pocket and, sure enough, found 3 pieces of chocolate. Ever since I fainted from low blood sugar a long time ago, Diana had made it a habit to put a few chocolates in my pocket every day. The sweetness melted on my tongue, and the dizziness quickly subsided. But then, a persistent, cloying bitterness rose in its place. 7 years together. How did Diana and I end up here? At first, I really believed Felix was just a nepotism hire she had to bring on because of his father's connections. I thought that was why Diana had to be so strictly professional with me at work while giving him special treatment. My department head, Mr. Rollins, gave me hell multiple times, and nothing happened. But when he was slightly rude to Felix, he was fired. Behind his back, everyone called Felix the princeling, even in front of me, Diana's secret boyfriend. I forced myself to understand her predicament, but the special treatment started bleeding into our life at home. Time and time again, Diana would ditch me to run to him whenever he called. One night, things blew up. I saw a photo in a private group chat with some coworkers. Diana, who had told me she was working late, was at a late-night movie with Felix. It was the same movie I had begged her to see with me, the one she'd flatly refused. Everyone says you have to see Beloved with the one you love. We should go, I had pleaded, tugging her arm playfully. Diana hadn't even bothered to look up. Watching cheesy rom-coms is a waste of life, she'd said. But in the photo, she was radiant, smiling from ear to ear, not a hint of impatience on her face. The messages in the group chat flew by, blurring before my eyes. When Diana got home, I asked her in a flat, toneless voice. Was beloved good? A flicker of surprise seemed to cross her eyes. Or maybe I imagined it. She was completely unfazed, her face blank. Were you following me? My heart felt like it was being smothered by a thick, wet towel. Couldn't breathe. Do I need to follow you? That sweet picture of you two has been all over the office group chat. My chest heaved uncontrollably. Diana, if you want to break up, just say it. You don't have to lie to me like this. Her expression didn't change. She was as calm as a bystander. If you don't have even the most basic trust in me, then I have nothing more to say. Leo, I've had a long day. I don't have the energy to fight with you. No guilt, no explanation. Compared to my pathetic state, she was so composed. She even remembered to carefully place the paper bag she was holding on the table. The words beloved on the bag were like sharp shards of ice, stabbing straight through my heart. All the emotions I had suppressed for so long, wrapped in an immense sense of grievance, came crashing down on me. Finally, the last thread of my sanity snapped. I snatched the bag and, in a fit of rage, smashed it on the floor. It wasn't sealed. The contents tumbled out, making a few soft thuds. I didn't even look. I just stared at Diana, my eyes red. We locked eyes, a standoff. A moment later, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I stood there, frozen like a statue, until something rolled to my feet. I looked down, stunned. It was a chocolate. The floor was covered in round, handmade chocolates. My heart still softened. I wanted to talk to her, to work things out. But for 3 whole days, Diana didn't answer her phone and didn't come home. I swallowed my pride and sent her a message. I was wrong to lose my temper without talking to you first. But it's also a fact that you said you were working late but went to the movies with him. Tonight is our 6th anniversary. I'll be waiting for you at home. Let's sit down and talk this through. Okay? But I waited from morning until night, and she never came back. As it neared 11 p.m., I made up my mind to go find her at the office. On the way, I ran into Mr. Rollins, the manager Diana had fired because of Felix. He dragged me into a dark alley. I don't dare touch the CEO, but I can sure as hell go after the pretty boy she protects. Can't I? Call after call to her private number went unanswered. My terrified cries for help were met with silence. If a passerby hadn't shown up and scared him off, I would have ended up with more than just a bruised and swollen face. When my phone suddenly rang, I was like a spooked bird and let out a short scream. Seeing the name on the screen, the strength that had held me together all night instantly collapsed. My voice was a choked sob, the sound of a survivor. Diana, hello? It was Felix's voice, low and laced with a smile. Diana's in the shower. I saw you called a few times. May I ask who this is and what you need? My throat felt like it was stuffed with hot coals. The flesh inside was seared and scorched. The pain was so intense I wanted to take a knife and carve out my own vocal cords. Hanging up the phone, such a simple act, seemed to drain all my strength. Beaten and broken, I limped to the police station to file a report. When it was all over, my alarm clock showed it was 12:01 a.m. the next day. I finally got a call from Diana. Her tone was as condescending as ever. Learned your lesson? In that instant, I knew. She had done it on purpose. All those unanswered calls on our anniversary were her punishment for my lack of trust. Tears streamed down my swollen face, feeling like acid on open wounds. When I spoke, my voice was as hoarse as a broken accordion. Diana, I said, let's break up. There was only a second of silence on the other end. Then a cold laugh. Fine. Don't you regret it? She hung up without a second thought. She agreed to the breakup without a hint of hesitation. At first, I just had trouble sleeping. I couldn't stop replaying the details of our time together. I was terrified I had misjudged her, that I'd sentenced her unfairly. I started rereading our chat history over and over. But the more I read, the sadder I became, the more resentment I felt. I started to hate Diana. 6 years. 6 whole years. I hated how she could discard me so casually, like tossing out trash. At 4 a.m., I painfully deleted all her accounts. I got up and, in a rage, gathered all of her things. I stuffed them into large garbage bags and threw them violently into the dumpster downstairs. After all that, I thought I would feel relieved. But it was like I had meticulously planned to swat a mosquito that was tormenting me, only to find that the blood that splattered was my own. I went to work on time as if nothing had happened, but only I knew that a huge piece of my heart had been carved out. The part where Diana used to be. It had started to rot. To survive, I had to carve out that rotting flesh myself. But I forgot that a wound that big is also fatal. My emotions began to lash back with a vengeance after I saw her at a company-wide meeting. Diana was still as poised and self-assured as ever. In fact, she looked even more radiant. It was as if losing me had had no effect on her at all. Felix exchanged a look with her that he thought was subtle, his face flushing slightly. I started having sleepless nights, throwing up everything I ate. Diana didn't use social media, so I started obsessively stalking Felix's accounts. I analyzed every status and post that had anything to do with her, until one day, I fainted from low blood sugar at the office and was rushed to the hospital. Diana condescended to visit me. It was the 29th day since our breakup. She casually twisted the matching promise ring on her finger. "Leo, you've lost weight." I stared blankly, my mouth moving woodenly. "I'm sorry." A triumphant smile spread across Diana's face. "We got back together. There's an old saying, better a short, sharp pain than a long, dull ache. But that doesn't work for everyone. For someone with a weak will, the best method is a quiet withdrawal. You keep the person in the same place in your life, but you slowly stop expecting anything from them." It was like slowly boiling my own heart. The process wasn't too difficult. The end wasn't too painful. At first, my heart would still ache whenever I had to pretend to be magnanimous. But Diana seemed very satisfied. Otherwise, she wouldn't have smiled faintly and patted my head like I was some kind of pet. "Leo, you've grown up." About 6 months after we got back together, my self-rescue method started working. I was slowly becoming the person Diana wanted me to be. When she didn't come home all night, I no longer checked up on her. I stopped asking about her and Felix. By the time I realized it, that piece of rot, like an overripe fruit, had finally fallen from the branch of my heart on its own. I paused for a moment, then smiled. Then I sent my resume to a company in France. They had extended an offer to me before, but I turned it down to stay with Diana. Luckily, they offered me the job again. I bought a plane ticket for 2 weeks later. I didn't plan on telling Diana. After all, our relationship had always been optional for her. I became more and more generous, more and more understanding. But Diana, it seemed, was starting to get unhappy. I thought I was just imagining things and kept working late as usual. When I got home, she stopped me before I could take a shower. Diana slowly lifted her eyelids. "Is there anything you want to tell me lately?" I yawned and shook my head, confused. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," she said, her voice flat. "Go ahead." But I soon learned she was, in fact, angry. My toes curled as I was forced to endure her advances, each time more aggressive than the last. Diana held me from behind, her warm breath on my neck. Her whispers were as soft as a feather, but her movements were as heavy as an interrogation. "Felix has been giving you a hard time at work, making you work overtime. Why didn't you tell me?" My stomach was cramping. I honestly couldn't understand what she was so mad about. I could only beg the instigator for mercy. Work is work, personal is personal. I'm being good. Before, my old boss, Mr. Rollins, the one who attacked me, was always giving me a hard time. Once, he made me take the fall for a huge mistake. In a meeting with hundreds of people, Diana tore into me without mercy. Even a pig wouldn't be this stupid. Back home, I swallowed my pride. "You can check the email records. Why wouldn't you listen to my explanation in the meeting?" Diana's face was blank, just like at the office. Work is work and personal is personal. "Leo, I only look at results. At the office, I'm your boss, not your girlfriend. I can't have your back." But 2 days later, my boss was fired. The reason? He was rude to Felix. I worked hard and was the top performer. When my boss left, everyone assumed I'd be the one promoted. But Felix, who hadn't even finished his probation period, was promoted by Diana over everyone else. He took my old boss's position and became my new boss. Now I was finally staying in my lane, not making a fuss, and keeping work and personal life separate. But Diana's movements stiffened, and she flipped me over. The light was too bright. I raised a hand to cover my eyes, and involuntary tears slid from the corners. But Diana insisted on pulling my hand away. I tried to resist, but I was too weak. "What are you doing?" She pried my hand away. Diana stared into my eyes, her tone stubborn. "You used to look me in the eye." I had no idea what had gotten into her. I just stared back at her, annoyed. In that instant, a flash of anxiety crossed Diana's face. She inexplicably covered my eyes with her hand. Then she leaned in to kiss me, repeating my name over and over. "Leo, Leo." The next day, Diana suddenly asked Felix to give a work report. It was all work I had done, and Felix just stammered, unable to say a thing. "If you don't even understand the basics of your own job," Diana said, her face impassive, "then you don't need to be in this position." Everyone in the conference room was dead silent, afraid to even breathe. After the meeting, the break room on our floor was buzzing. "God, the CEO was in a terrible mood today. Do you guys think the princeling is about to lose favor?" Everyone was chattering away. Someone pointed at me as I was making instant coffee. "Leo, why are you so quiet? I've got to say, you're one tough cookie. You didn't even crack when the boss reamed you out like that." Honestly, I couldn't be bothered to get involved in their drama. But in a situation where everyone is gossiping about the boss, silence means potential betrayal, and you become the target. So I just laughed it off. Who am I to compare myself to the princeling? I'm just a drone. They're childhood sweethearts. They fight 1 minute and make up the next. A love-hate drama is the ultimate office romance trope. "Hey, why are you nudging me? Stop it." I looked down to steady my ceramic mug, making sure to add, "They're a perfect match." Honestly, I'm totally shipping them now. Only after I said it did I notice the eerie silence in the break room. I looked up and met Diana's ice-cold face. Amid the pitying glances of my coworkers, I was summoned to the top floor by a fuming Diana. The moment I stepped inside, she wrapped her arms around me from behind. I jumped in surprise. Diana was usually so careful about this. To keep our relationship a secret, she made me get out of the car 2 traffic lights early every morning. But now the office door was open, and any of her 7 assistants could walk in at any moment. I frantically pushed her away. "Someone will see." Diana started staring into my eyes again, as if she was determined to dig something out of them. After a long moment, she finally lowered her hand. "Leo, there's really nothing between me and Felix. Forget it. It's fine if you're still upset. From now on, I'll prove it to you with my actions." I was stunned. I never expected to get the promise I'd cried and fought for before our breakup. And now I was getting it for no reason at all. But now, my flight was in 7 days. I didn't want anything from her anymore. Diana started to change. She suddenly began reporting her every move to me, even though I couldn't care less. She became obsessed with forcing me to look at her face during sex. But every time I did, she'd end up covering my eyes. It was like a derailed train suddenly getting back on track. The hands on the clock, our relationship. Everything seemed to rewind to a time before Felix ever appeared. I suddenly thought, maybe she wasn't completely indifferent after all. I should tell her I was leaving face to face. I hadn't noticed when I bought the ticket. My departure date was our 7th anniversary, and tomorrow was the day. I looked at the photo Diana had sent me from her business dinner, a way of checking in. I decided to tell her everything tonight, but then I saw it, Diana kissing Felix. The evening breeze, the summer night, the stars. The scene was identical to the night we got together. 7 years ago. Except back then, I was the one in Diana's arms. Now it was Felix. Felix's flirtatious eyes were dazzling. The smile on his lips was blinding. He looked at me. His eyes flashed with defiance and triumph. I couldn't help but laugh at myself. My heart was like a pool of completely stagnant water. Finally, I was completely and utterly numb. Diana had been on edge for days, perhaps because Leo was a little too well behaved. Before, he would start chattering about how he wanted to celebrate our anniversary a month or two in advance. But today was our 7th anniversary. If she hadn't brought it up in the car this morning, he seemed to have forgotten about it completely. Diana frowned, looked down at her silent phone. A strange sense of losing control crawled up her spine like 1,000 ants. Felt like something intangible was slipping away, just out of sight. She couldn't grasp it, but she had to do something to calm herself. So she sent another check-in message to Leo. I'm handling something important over here. Be good. See you at the Sunset Grill at 6:30 p.m. Just then, a cheerful male voice called out, Diana. Diana looked up, annoyed. She saw Felix's face, and next to him, his father. A caregiver pushing her own father's wheelchair followed close behind. Her father's brow was perpetually furrowed. After we finish our business, it'll be dinner time. So I invited my future-in-law to join us for a meal. Felix's father also put on the airs of an elder, chiming in with her father. It's been a whole year. It's time to set a date for you two kids' wedding. Your father isn't well. Why did you specifically ask him to come here? Let's get this over with so we can all go eat. Felix nodded in agreement. All right, Diana said, a cruel curve to her lips, but no trace of a smile in her eyes. I was planning to meet with your father tomorrow anyway. Felix's father had just started to smile. The smile froze on his face at Diana's next words. Then it's a perfect time to discuss the land in the Northwood development. Northwood? What Northwood? Felix's father's eyes looked like they were about to pop out. Diana's father's face also changed dramatically. Only Felix said, Dad, it's that piece of land. Diana said it was urgent. Last night, Felix said, blushing slightly at some memory. Anyway, last night, I got your official seal and stamped it for her. With every word Felix spoke, the two old men's faces grew a shade paler. Within minutes, Diana's father had fainted from rage. The emotional elder was dragged out by security. Only Felix stood frozen in place like a marionette. He seemed to finally understand the situation, his eyes turning red. So you've been using me this whole time? Being nice to me was all an act, just to gain my trust and go after my dad? I don't understand your business stuff. But I never did anything to hurt you. I even knew you had a boyfriend and waited for you to break up. How could you do this to me? Felix had naively allowed his father to use his shares to pressure her into a marriage alliance. Now that she had her shares back and was no longer under anyone's thumb, Diana couldn't be bothered to waste another expression on him. Her voice was cold, without a hint of emotion. Didn't you? If you hadn't used your privileges, how would you have gotten your position at my company? Felix looked at her as if for the first time. Oh, he said through his tears. So you're standing up for your boyfriend, Leo? Diana hadn't expected him to know her boyfriend was Leo. Her brow furrowed slightly. Felix caught it instantly. So the name Leo was this woman's only weakness. His eyes were so red they looked like they might start bleeding. Diana wanted to use him and throw him away like a post-it note. But he was going to be super glue. He would tear a layer of skin off her, even if it killed him. Leo submitted his resignation this morning. Since he's a level below me, resignations for employees under level 4 don't require your approval. I figured you didn't know, so I thought I'd be nice and tell you. Diana's pupils contracted. She glanced at her watch, stood up, and said coldly, I have to go. Do as you please. But Felix saw the panic in her hurried steps. By the way, he felt the blood roaring in his veins, and his voice came out sharp and cruel. Leo saw us kiss last night. He watched with satisfaction as Diana's hand froze on the doorknob. Each word a cathartic, bloody cry. You should have seen the look on his face. TSK. What a shame you missed it. Diana drove home immediately. Leo didn't answer his phone. She opened the door to their apartment. Everything was exactly as she'd left it that morning. Leo's favorite pillow was still lying comically on its side on the sofa. Leo's clothes were still neatly folded in the closet. Diana's heart, which had been pounding painfully, finally started to calm down. But the next second, she saw something on the nightstand. It was their matching promise rings. Under the rings was a note. It read, "We're done. You can have this back." The robotic "the number you have dialed is unavailable" played over and over in her ear. Like a volley of poisoned arrows, each one pierced Diana's heart. Just then, an unknown number called. Diana, who had been calm even when signing her parents' death certificates, even when she learned their best friend had stolen most of her inheritance, found her hand trembling slightly. Hello. Her heart was dangling over a cliff. She grabbed onto the last straw. Leo? A polite, official voice came from the other end. Ms. Diana, hello. We're the management from the Sunset Grill, which you booked out for the evening. It is now 6:31 p.m., and I see that neither you nor your boyfriend have arrived. Would you like to reschedule your proposal? Her heart plummeted off the cliff, shattering into a million pieces. But Diana didn't even have time to feel the pain. For the next several days, she worked tirelessly, fending off the desperate last-ditch attacks from Felix's father and her own. She knew where Leo was but couldn't go to him. Until the 29th day after their breakup. Her family's company was completely, finally, hers. She flew to the country where he was living. Diana clutched the promise ring Leo had left behind. The metal dug painfully into her palm, making her heart ache. She finally understood that the indescribable bitterness in her chest was the feeling of being wronged. She thought, Leo has really gone too far this time. It's one thing to be angry, but to leave the country without me? Whatever. He loves me so much. He only did this because he saw me kissing Felix and was furious. Diana tried to ignore the images of Leo's uncharacteristic calmness that kept popping into her head. She told herself again, all I have to do is go to him and smooth things over. He'll come right back to me. But on a street in a foreign country, she saw from a distance, her Leo, kissing another woman. When Vivian leaned in, I was completely stunned. A wave of heat shot from the spot on my cheek she had lightly touched, spreading down my neck and through my whole body. She quickly took a step back. I was still frozen. Why the sudden cheek kiss? I'm sorry. You're just too cute. Vivian looked down at me, her bright eyes shimmering like the sun on the ocean. I wanted to kiss your cheek, but I was afraid it would be too forward. I like you. Will you be my boyfriend? Now I was truly speechless. When my coworkers had nudged each other, joking that the boss had a crush on me, I hadn't taken it seriously. Vivian was the general manager of our branch. Young and successful with a bright, beautiful face, she was unanimously considered a goddess. My personal interactions with her began when I started staying late at the office to practice my English. One time, I was so tired I fell asleep. When I woke up, there was a comfortable, thin blanket draped over me. When Vivian wasn't talking, she looked very serious. Working overtime isn't a good habit. Being criticized by your boss is always awkward. Just as I was about to explain, I saw a mischievous glint in her eyes, like a child who just pulled a successful prank. But hard work deserves a reward. I was flattered and had no reason to say no. With her help, I improved rapidly. 2 weeks into my new job, I landed a huge deal. That also put me in contention for a promotion, threatening a colleague at my level. He tried to rally others to isolate me. But in a meeting with 100 people, Vivian praised me generously and called him out by name. It was a clear warning shot, a way of standing up for me. My coworkers said they'd never seen the GM go to such lengths for anyone. But I had an untimely thought. So this is what it feels like to be Felix. Truthfully, after coming to France, I rarely thought about Diana. I knew my leaving wouldn't affect her at all. Without expectation, there can be no disappointment. Besides, Diana was always an immovable mountain. She wasn't going to suddenly appear in my country like the CEO heroine from one of those cheesy dramas she hated. Leo. At that very moment, I watched the woman who shouldn't be here, her face grim, striding toward me. Before I could even widen my eyes, Diana pulled me into a frantic hug. Her breathing was surprisingly unsteady. For a second, I thought I saw Vivian's surprised voice cut in from the side. Ms. Diana? You know Mr. Jones? I was shocked too. Why did Vivian know Diana? I was about to push Diana away. She seemed to just then realize there was a third person present. She let go of me, instead standing beside me shoulder to shoulder. Diana's voice was calm, but her hand gripped my shoulder, holding me in place. I forgot to introduce him. Leo is my boyfriend. The last few minutes had been an information overload. My brain felt like an overloaded computer and just crashed. I had no idea what Diana was doing. The words tumbled out before I could think. Let go of me. We already broke up. Hearing this, Vivian's eyes narrowed, and her gaze on Diana turned to ice. Please let him go, she said. Even though you're our client, I have to ensure the safety of my company's employees. The air around Diana grew heavy. For some reason, she was full of hostility toward Vivian. Your GM here has a habit of giving her male subordinates sudden cheek kisses. She cut Vivian off, a cold sneer escaping her. I don't find that to be very professional behavior. I finally understood. Diana was the client behind the huge deal I had landed. A deep sense of exhaustion washed over me. The massive sense of accomplishment I'd felt from closing that deal now felt like a giant slap across my face. The truth is, quickly adapting to work and life in a foreign country isn't easy. But you fall in love with yourself by overcoming challenges, one after another. And besides that one deal, my other sales for the month had already put me at the top of the department. I just didn't understand. Why did Diana always have to show up at moments like this to tell me, admit it, Leo, you can't live without me? I stopped struggling and said calmly, Diana, let me go. I gave Vivian a reassuring look. Then I said to Diana, let's sit down and talk. It was a long overdue conversation. Diana pinched the bridge of her nose. Her long lashes framed deep-set, weary eyes. That night downstairs, Felix kissed me so fast I didn't have time to dodge. Just like how Vivian just approached you so quickly. But you've been angry for long enough this time, and you've taken it far enough. I'm sorry. Can you come home with me now? I never thought that even now, Diana would still think I was just throwing a tantrum. The words caught in my throat and turned into a laugh of disbelief. I don't care what happens with you and Felix anymore. Diana, when I said we should break up, I meant it. At this point, I certainly didn't think Diana had chased me all the way here out of love. It was probably just the habit of a person used to being in control, unable to handle someone who had always been behind her suddenly disappearing. My words must have been an answer Diana had never anticipated. Her face went completely blank. I was the one who had given her that confidence. After all, in our relationship, I was always the insecure one, the one who surrendered first. Her mouth opened, her tone stunned. Why? I used to be the one hysterically asking why. But Diana would always say there was nothing to explain. Now, at this point, I finally understood her. When you don't care, there's no need for an explanation. I spoke calmly. There is no why. It doesn't matter anymore. The love is gone. We broke up. It's a normal thing. Diana studied me, taking a long moment before speaking. You're just still resentful. Her eyes were dark, full of determination. A breakup, is it? Fine. Then I'll just win you back. I never knew Diana had such a capacity for pestering. She had always been so concerned with her image. She'd never done anything to lower herself like this. A client, a perfectly good client, demanding to work alongside us in our office. She deliberately, calmly, inserted herself into my work and life. I was no longer conceited enough to think she was going to all this trouble because she cared about me. It was just her pride, unable to accept being broken up with. But one day, I was passing the break room. I heard my co-workers talking about me, saying how lucky I was to have two top-tier goddesses pursuing me, and they were betting on who I'd end up with. Every single one of them bet on Vivian. There were many reasons. Someone had seen me and the GM working late in the office alone. Someone else saw us at a screening of a classic movie. The sound of a cup shattering on the floor, like a magnet, pulled everyone's attention to the other entrance of the break room. Diana was standing there. She met my gaze from across the room. The woman who was always so cold and powerful now looked desolate and lost. This time, Diana used her status as a client to force me to have dinner with her. She clutched her glass, her voice dry and hoarse. This past year, I've been terrible to you, haven't I? Diana's long eyelashes trembled like a butterfly's wings. I was wrong. I didn't handle my interactions with other men properly. But I've fired Felix now. My feelings for you haven't changed. You can't sentence me to death over these things. Just like I know, she paused, forcing a light tone, that there's nothing going on between you and Vivian, right? It turns out there really is no such thing as true empathy in this world. Only when you're standing alone in a blizzard do you realize how bone-chilling and unbearable it is. I watched her expression and, for the first time, felt a sense of satisfaction. But I didn't want to drag Vivian into our mess. It doesn't matter, I said. It doesn't matter? Again with it doesn't matter? Then what the hell does matter to you? Diana's voice rose unconsciously, causing many people in the coffee shop to turn and stare. The roles were reversed. I used to be the one who was hysterical. She had always been so poised from head to toe. When had she ever lost her composure like this? Her breath hitched, and she calmed herself. Like a drowning person grabbing the last piece of driftwood, she took out the promise rings I had left behind. Like a gambler placing their last chip on the table. You once said you wanted to trade this ring for a wedding ring. You said it would always be true. Let's go home and get married. Okay? Diana knew better than anyone how much I wanted to marry her. She'd say, the company doesn't allow office romances. It's not the right time to go public. And so I remained her secret, unrecognized boyfriend for years. I waited year after year. Back when I was being targeted by Mr. Rollins, I would mumble pitifully at home. One day, when I'm the boss's husband, I'm gonna scare the hell out of everyone at work, especially Rollins. My voice would drop. Diana, year after year, when is the right time ever going to come? But now, hearing the proposal I had dreamed of, my heart felt not a single ripple. I met her eager gaze and took the rings. I stated calmly, on our 6th anniversary, I called you many, many times. You didn't answer. Diana's voice was urgent. I was sleeping at the office for a few days. Felix came to bring me something. We didn't do anything. Her explanation stopped abruptly, as if she were an animal being choked. Her thin lips opened and closed several times. As if mortally wounded, she couldn't utter a single word. I think I was more merciful than Diana. I used to be so hysterical, yet she wouldn't even grant me a single explanation. And I was tired. But at this point, there are no survivors in love, only mutual destruction. I laid myself bare, like taking a scalpel to my own chest to expose my heart. The biggest obstacle between us was never Felix. Diana, being with you was exhausting. You made me feel like if I wasn't there, you could just choose anyone else. I worked my ass off, tried so hard, constantly insecure, until later, I realized that the validation I so desperately craved shouldn't have come from you, but from myself. Before, I thought I couldn't live without you, but it turns out, I'm actually happier without you. As my last word fell, Diana's expression was one of sorrow and desolation. She just watched as I threw the rings out the window. In the end, she didn't say a word. After that conversation, Diana never came to my office again. The last time I saw her was at the project wrap-up. Vivian brought me along as the vendor, and Diana was there as the client for the final sign-off. After Vivian learned about my history with Diana, she didn't pressure me for an answer about her feelings, instead saying she would wait for me to sort things out. In the car, there was silence. I sat in the passenger seat. Diana sat in the back. Diana kept her eyes down, not saying a word. I had made things perfectly clear. Diana was never one to wallow in misery. After this project, we would probably never see each other again. That year, the winter in France was extremely cold. That night, a blizzard started unexpectedly. My right eyelid twitched uncontrollably. The accident happened in a flash. The tires skidded. Vivian quickly turned the wheel, but she couldn't control the car. I was thrown against the window. In the distance, a car was speeding toward us. Just before the impact, a crisp, familiar scent enveloped me, strong and unhesitating. My head was held tightly in Diana's arms. My face was pressed against something hard through a layer of her clothes. I suddenly realized it was a ring, the ring I had thrown away. At the very end, Diana said, "Leo, I'm sorry." I opened my eyes again. Diana was still in the ICU, fighting for her life. My left arm was broken. Vivian had taken the best defensive action and was the least injured of the three of us. She came to see me, her face full of shame. I didn't blame her. After all, blaming someone I'd only known for 29 days for not risking her life to save me in a moment of crisis would be completely unreasonable. Besides, in a situation like that, self-preservation is the first human instinct. What kind of person could overcome that instinct and use their own life to save someone else's? I sat numbly outside the ICU. The first people to arrive were 5 lawyers who had flown in from overseas. They had me sign a pile of documents. The 3 most important lines stated, in the event of Diana's death or incapacitation, all her assets would be unconditionally transferred to Leo Jones. And this clause could not be revoked for any reason, not even by Diana herself. In a life or death moment, Diana had used her life to say she loved me and then apologized. I just didn't understand. How could someone love a person and hurt them so condescendingly at the same time? I covered my face and finally broke down, sobbing. One of the lawyers was older. He had watched Diana grow up. He told me the whole story of her fight for control of the company, then sighed deeply and patted my shoulder. That old man from the Felix family is cunning. She had no choice but to play along with Felix. Diana's been a fighter since she was a child. Perhaps that's why she'd rather let you misunderstand her than tell you the truth. For her to show you her vulnerability would be like asking her to die. My left arm was out of its cast, and Diana had been transferred to a hospital back home. But she still hadn't woken up. I went to the Sunset Grill. As the sun began to set, someone at the next table was proposing. The restaurant filled with good-natured cheers. The girl, blushing under the crowd's encouragement, accepted the ring. The 2 left the restaurant, completely content. A server clearing their table was sighing wistfully. Last time, a stunningly beautiful woman booked the entire restaurant, but she and her boyfriend both stood her up. The lady had confirmed every detail in advance, the entire process, the ceremony, even the air humidity. The thing I remember most is that for everyone who proposes here, the centerpiece on the table usually says, "Marry me." But this lady was special. She had a custom one made. It said, "Worth the wait." The sun went down. Only the afterglow remained. I watched, and for some reason, the soft light felt blinding. By the time I realized it, tears were streaming down my face. Couldn't deny it. In this world, apart from Diana, no one else could bring me such extreme love and hate. I returned to the hospital room that night. Diana was still lying there quietly. Her features were as delicate and beautiful as a painting. Just like every night she used to lie beside me, as if in the next second, she would open those eyes that once brought me so much love and pain. She would look at me, kiss me softly. I whispered, "I know you love me now, but the process of being completely broken down, bone and sinew, and then rebuilt is too painful. I can't go through it a second time. I accept your apology. Our 7 years, all of it is wiped clean." After saying that, I smiled softly. "Wake up soon. The weather will be nice tomorrow. Diana, I sincerely wish you a life of freedom." A breeze blew past the window, carrying my voice, full of release. It's just that I won't be in it. Diana's story. Diana had a very long dream. First, she saw the 19-year-old Leo. She was the president of a club, he was a new member. They all went out for a steak dinner. He ordered his steak medium well. Someone laughed mockingly. His fair skin flushed, the color spreading from his ears down his slender neck, disappearing into the collar of his white shirt. Even as embarrassed as he was, he managed a candid smile and admitted to everyone, "Sorry, my family doesn't have much money. I've never had a steak dinner before." That rare honesty and resilience were deeply moving. Looking back, her heart had already caught fire for him. But everything Diana had ever loved, from childhood to adulthood, she could never keep. She once found a weak little puppy on a rainy night and cared for it meticulously. On the third day, it appeared on the family dinner table. Her father picked up a piece and chewed. The loose flesh of his face folded in on itself, like some kind of monster. "Diana," he said, "don't do useless things." But the old man himself did plenty of absurd things, like helping the son of his unrequited love steal his own daughter's inheritance, like trying to arrange a marriage between their grandchildren to fulfill his lifelong regret. Diana plotted for years. At first, it was for revenge, for power. Later, it was to rightfully bring one person under her protection. She had to ensure Leo was absolutely safe before she could reveal him to the world. Felix's father was a cunning man, but everyone has a weakness. When that weakness presented itself, Diana hesitated for only a second before seizing the opportunity. In that 1 second, she thought, "I can never, and will never, let Leo know about any of this." In his eyes, she was supposed to be all-powerful, a master strategist, not some despicable, incompetent person who would do anything to achieve her goals. As long as nothing actually happened between her and Felix, she hadn't betrayed him. When Leo first confronted her, she had nothing to say. She just wanted to avoid the topic. Later, this self-sacrifice became a form of self-brainwashing. On one hand, she grew annoyed. Why couldn't Leo just be more obedient? She was the one sacrificing everything, paving the way for their beautiful future. On the other hand, she couldn't help but feel a secret arrogance, the kind reserved for the one with the upper hand in a relationship. Leo loved her. No matter what she did, Leo would never leave her. His pain, his struggle, his tolerance, and his compromises all became her nourishment. It tirelessly watered that feeling she had so rarely possessed since childhood, a sense of complete control. This security made her more and more radiant. But he, drained of that nourishment, slowly withered and decayed. When she finally came to her senses, the most painful thing wasn't Leo saying, "I don't love you anymore." It turns out, "I'm actually happier without you." She thought she had become a sanctuary for him, shielding him from the wind and rain. But in the end, she discovered that the wind and rain he had endured were brought by her, the sanctuary itself. She fell in love with him for his heart, as transparent and tough as a diamond. But in the end, she was the one who personally wore it down, struck it and shattered it. The moment the car crashed, she, a person who had always been so selfish, didn't hesitate for a second. As her eyes closed, Diana said, I'm sorry for making you wait so long." A single, crystal-clear tear slid from the corner of Diana's eye. The green wave on the monitor trembled weakly one last time, like a sigh filled with infinite regret. It faded into a calm, flat line, finally giving way to eternal silence.